Hello folks, welcome to another part in this hybrid zombie tutorial series. In today's video, we're going to take a look at spawning the zombie in. We have a zombie spawner manager that's going to take a look at how many zombies you want to spawn in, and it's going to spawn zombies according to your requirements. It's going to be a very simple tutorial, and we're going to keep building up on this tutorial in the next upcoming videos on having different type of zombie spawning in your game. Let's go ahead and take a look at how to make the zombie spawn in your system. Get started with the enemy spawn system. I'm going to show you a simple system, and then we're going to start building on top of it. First, in our core folder, enemy system blueprints, we're going to create a new folder, and this would be named as our spawn system. Let's open this up, and we're going to create a new blueprint class, and this would be of type actor, and we're going to name this BP_spawn manager. And the spawn manager is going to be responsible for all the functionality of spawning the zombies in the world. So let's go ahead and open up our spawn manager. And in our spawn manager, we're going to first start with two very important variables. First one is our max spawn count. And this would be of type integer. As you flesh out your game and keep building on it, you're going to add more and more meshes in your world, which is going to start affecting your performance, and it's going to start bringing your frame rate down. Spawning of a zombie in your world is also going to impact the performance of your game. So you need to keep track of how many zombies are in your map at one time, and then keep controlling that number so that it doesn't tank your performance as much. Now, this maximum spawn count is not a one number fit all system type of thing. It's more like you need to take a look at what's in your level, and then you need to adjust this number to make sure that your maximum numbers of zombies in your level does not impact your performance negatively. I'll show you how you can do that in just a moment once we finish the functionality of this blueprint. But this is a very important variable that you need to keep your eye out on and keep adjusting it until you get a very decent performance out of your game. The second variable that we're going to have is our current zombie count. And this is basically going to keep track of how many zombies we have spawned in so far. So now we need to add in a function to control the spawning of the zombies. So let's go ahead and create a function, and this would be called spawn zombies. And before we even proceed with spawning the actual zombie, we're going to do a quick check. We're going to check to see if our current zombie count is less than our max zombie count, and then do a branch. If our current zombie count is less than our max spawn count, then we're going to go ahead and proceed with spawning our zombie. For that, we're going to spawn an actor from class. And this would be our BP_zombie base. And we're going to leave the zombie type as a general zombie. And in terms of collision handling override, instead of leaving it at default, we're going to choose the option, try to adjust the location, don't spawn if colliding. It's exactly what the name says, right? We're going to use a box, and we're going to go ahead and spawn the zombie inside of this box. And I don't want you to try to meticulously adjust the box size in smaller areas. I like to basically have that box just covering the entire area. And the collision system should take a look at saying, hey, is the zombie going to collide when it spawns? If it does, then don't spawn. And it will try to adjust the location. And if it cannot, then it's going to go ahead and not spawn that zombie. That's what we need to do here. And once we spawn the zombie, we need to define what's the location of the zombie. So for that, we need to create that box that we just talked about. So we're going to go to our content drawer, create a new blueprint class of type actor, name this BP_spawn zone. And this is going to have a box collision, and this is going to be called as the spawn_zone. And that's all we're going to do here for now. And going to create a new function to get a random location within this box. So we're going to check the entirety of the box, and then the game is going to randomly pick a location from within this box and return it to us so we can use that to spawn our zombie. So we're going to create a new function, and we'll name this get random location from box. For this, we need to first get the actor of class. This would be our BP_spawn zone. So that's our class right there. And within this class, we have the spawn zone component. So we need to get that component. So we're going to go drag off of this and say get spawn zone. Here, we need to find a random location within the box. So if you right click and search for random point in bounding box, it will give you a random location in a collision box. For that, we need the center and also the half size of that box. So given that this is a box, if you drag off of the spawn zone and say get world location, you're going to get the center of the actual spawn box. And if you drag from the spawn box again and say get scaled box extent, this is going to give you the half size. And this return value is going to be our spawn location. So off of our actor of class, let's drag and then add in a return node. You can add in an input here and then set this up to a vector. Or the easiest method is to drag this return value on top of this return node, and it's going to automatically add that. So we're going to go ahead and name this as our spawn location. And now back in our spawn zombies, and this is going to give you an error because we need to define the spawn transform. It's a mandatory requirement. So we're going to right click on the spawn transform and we're going to split the struct pin. A transform is basically made of the location, rotation, and the scale of the actual actor that you want to spawn in. So we need to now define this. So just move the spawn actor just a little bit, and then we're going to drag in our get random location from box and then connect it to this true node. And that will connect it to both the nodes just like this. And this return value, which is our spawn location, we're going to go ahead and connect this to the spawn transform location. Compile, and then when you save it, that error will go away. And once we spawn the zombie, because we have a collision handle where it may or may not spawn the zombie, we're going to drag off of this and check to see if it is valid. So if you search for valid, there's going to be a question mark valid and also a function valid. We're going to get the question mark valid, so it gives you an executable. So once it tries to spawn the zombie, and if it does spawn the zombie, then we're going to drag in our current zombie count, and we're going to drag off of this and say plus plus. And what this will give you is an increment integer. So this increment integer basically adds exactly 1 to whichever variable that you're trying to add. This is exactly the same as if you were to drag it and do an add and then add 1. These two nodes are exactly the same thing. So we're going to use this increment off of valid. As long as this zombie actor is valid, then we're going to go and increment a zombie count by 1, and we're going to drag this zombie count and then do a set and connect this to the integer just like this. So it increments the zombie count by 1, and then it will do a return. Just like that. And if this zombie is not, if this spawn actor class is not valid, basically it couldn't spawn the actor, then we're just going to return it. Compile and save it. So this way, if the game tries to spawn the zombie and because there's a collision and it cannot spawn the zombie, then it's not going to increment your zombie count by 1. So the function is very simple. When you call in the spawn zombie function, it's going to take a look at your current zombie count, which starts with 0. It's going to look at your maximum spawn count. We can set this as instance editable and expose on spawn. So we can adjust this value directly from our editor. And then if the zombie count is less than the maximum zombie count, then it's going to get a random location from the box. Inside of this box, this bottom layer, it's going to grab a random location and it's going to give us that location. And on that location, we're going to spawn a zombie. We're going to try to move the zombie if there's like a building in the way or like there's a car or something in a street and the zombie trying to spawn on top of it. If we cannot move the zombie around, then we're not going to spawn it. And only if the zombie spawns in, we're going to increment our count by 1. If not, return the function. So now we can go ahead and call this function. So in your event graph, we don't need this actor begin overlap or event tick for this time. We're going to drag off of this and search for timer by function. So that would be set timer by function name. The function name is the spawn zombie, so you can always go ahead and copy that name and then paste it in here. Just make sure you don't make any mistakes. The time is basically how long does it wait before it spawns the zombie, each and every single zombie. So for testing, I'm going to set this to 0.2 so I can show you what that looks like. And we're going to set this to looping. Compile and save it. And now we need to do 2 things. First, we're going to go to our content drawer, the spawn manager. It is mandatory that you drag your spawn manager and put it in your world. It doesn't matter where you put in your world. It can be anywhere in your world as long as it is in the world or in the level. And you need to make sure every level you go to that you're using this spawn system, this spawn manager is added to your level. You could always create a function on your character to spawn in this spawn manager from class. But for now, we're just going to drag and drop this in here. It doesn't need anything else, just drag and drop. And number 2, the spawn zone. This is how you're going to determine where the zombies will spawn in. So we're going to drag this spawn zone and we're going to put it on the map. We're going to go to our top perspective. Let me move this to the center here. And then we're going to expand this so it fills the area that you want the zombie to spawn in. For testing purposes, I'm going to fill this entire area up. And I also want to bring this just above the ground so it's not inside of the ground. Then save this. Now, if you select your manager, right here where you have your details for your spawn manager, you'll see the maximum spawn count is something that is available for you to edit. So for testing purposes, we're going to set this to like 30 zombies, save it, and then we're going to go ahead and play. And you'll notice in the background, one by one, the zombie is going to spawn in. That 0.2 seconds that we set up, that's the delay that is between each zombie spawn. One thing I did notice that the zombies were kind of dropping to the ground. So I'm going to reduce the height of this. Not too much. It can be just this and bring it lower. Save it. And we're going to go to our spawn manager and set this time to something like 0.05. Now, if I press play, you'll see the zombies are going to spawn in much faster. So you can actually promote this to a variable. So you can drag off of this time and then promote to a variable. And this would be our spawn time. Or we can even call this our spawn interval time. And you can make it instance editable and also expose on spawn and then compile it. So in outside here, where you can select your zombie manager, you can set up the spawn interval and also the number of zombies. So I'm going to set this to 0.001, like really, really small. And then I'm going to play and all the zombies will be automatically spawned into the game. Now, one thing I want you to do to test this is if you press the tilde key, the key right below your escape button, you will get this little console at the bottom. I want you to go in there and type in stat FPS. And what this will do, and press enter. And what this will do is it will give you this little number that's going to show you your current FPS. If you ever have your zombie, like kind of when it comes and touches you, your camera goes like kind of weird. You could always fix this by going to your enemy system, blueprints, and find your base zombie. Select the zombie capsule component and then scroll down to where it has collision preset to pawn. Set this to custom, and then where it says camera, set this to ignore. So it doesn't clip the player's camera. So back to where we were. Once you set up your frame, once you set up your FPS right here, then you can start monitoring to see how many zombies can you potentially have at once in your game, like the maximum amount of zombies. Right now, my FPS is showing about 90. And that's about 30 zombies in my map. And again, my map is very empty. So this number could be much smaller if I have like the entire world populated. But I could always go and I can increase this maximum zombie count to like 60 just to double it. And then press play to see what it will do. Now my FPS is at 72. And I do have a broadcast system, which I haven't shown you yet, but I will. Is basically when I enter the area with the zombies, the entire zombie just gets alerted and then they come for me. So as you can see right now, every single zombie have their animation blueprint working. The navigation mesh underneath on the floor is actually working as well, and their perception system is working. With 60 zombies at one shot, I have 60 frames per second. And this number could be different in your game as soon as you start adding very high quality assets. And if you don't really do performance optimization for your landscaping, this number could easily be like 10 FPS if you don't keep control of it. And this is why the maximum zombie count is very important. So you can continuously control how many zombies will be available on your map in one shot. Now, one thing I noticed is that the zombies are all facing the same direction, which is okay if the zombies are like going to get active immediately as soon as the player sees them. But if the player is seeing the zombie from a distance location, this looks a little odd. So let me show you how to quickly add a rotation to this. We're going to create a new function, and this would be named as set random rotation. And this would require an input. This would be our zombie blueprint. And this would be of type BP underscore zombie base. We're going to drag off of this zombie BP and we're going to search for get actor rotation. This is going to give us a rotator. Rotator is basically an XYZ value. So if you were to split it, then you're going to get your X, Y, and Z. And we're going to rotate the zombie on the Z axis. We're going to right click and create a random float in range. And this is going to be anywhere from 0 to 360 degrees. Drag the Z value and do an add. And add this random value. And we're going to right click and create a new node for make rotator. Connect the X as it is, Y as it is. The Z, we're going to add this new added value. And the last thing that we're going to do here is drag off of the zombie BP, and we're going to set actor rotation. And connect this rotation value directly to it. And off of this, we're going to do a return node. Compile and save this. Now back in our spawn zombies, where you have your validate function, after you set your current zombie count to +1, then we're going to call in this set random rotation function. And then plug in this return value from our actor class. We're going to just drag this and then plug it into our target zombie. So it's going to spawn in the zombie, increase the count, and it's also going to set up a random rotation to it as well. And then it's going to go do a return. So if I go in game and press play now, you'll notice that the zombies are all spawning and they're all facing a random rotation in a 360-degree angle. All right, folks, that's all I wanted to show you in this tutorial today. In the upcoming tutorials, I want to show you how to trigger the zombie spawning in based on where the player is. We want to create like a trigger, and when the player triggers that trigger box, the zombie should start spawning in instead of beginning of game. And also, I also want to show you this broadcast system where when one zombie detects the player, every single zombie is going to get notified that the player is here, and then all the zombies are going to start chasing the player or following the player. So this is what we're going to see in our next upcoming tutorial. I really hope you like this tutorial series. If you do, hit that like button and then subscribe to the channel if you can. I do have a lot more videos like this coming up, so it will be really appreciable if you could hit that subscribe button and also like this channel and share it with someone who may or may not be looking for something like this. Once again, thank you very much for stopping by. I really appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.